It was a year ago this week that Boston lost two firefighters. Lieutenant Edward Walsh and firefighter Michael Kennedy died after running into a burning building in the Back Bay trying to save others. This weekend, the courage shown by those two men was remembered.
Our loved ones live on in our hearts, but our heroes live on in our collective spirit.
Joseph Finn, then deputy chief, was in command of that fire. Just over 3 months later, he was named Boston's fire commissioner. Commissioner joins me now. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Jim.
So is there a single memory that you just can't shake from that night?
I would say that the speed and the ferocity of how quickly that fire developed and got to that untenable position, if you will, conditions, was probably the one thing. And I would say the two most singular contributing factors to the extent of the fire was the fact that it went undetected for such a period of time, and then the wind. Wind was probably the leading cause of that developing as ferociously as it did.
You know, we talked to you, Marjorie and I, on Boston Public Radio the day after, and I have to say the decision you had to make, a deeply injured firefighter Kennedy's body was taken out.
That's correct.
Lieutenant Walsh was still in the building, and you had to decide whether or not to send more people in to try to rescue Lieutenant Walsh. What was that like in you, Commissioner?
It was certainly an agonizing decision. I'd be, if I said anything else, it'd certainly be not as truthful as it should be. But you know, through training and experience, I knew it was the right time, and at that point I felt that we had, as the fire was developing, I felt we exhausted all our efforts, and that the time that Lieutenant Walsh and firefighter Kennedy were in that basement, that the probability of them surviving was nil, and that the fact that I was not going to willing to risk any more lives to recover the Fire Lieutenant Walsh or Michael.
You know, so a year later, we just saw a little bit from that Sunday ceremony. I've read a lot about the families. I know a foundation has been set up in each of their names. I know that I've read comments from some of their comrades at Engine 33, Ladder 15. What's life like for them and for you 363 days later? Thursday is the anniversary.
The families are remarkable. Kristen Walsh left with 3 young children. She's just a remarkable woman. She set up the Ed Walsh Foundation, which deals with raising money to help support youth organizations and sports.
He was a coach, right?
He was a coach, and he was a devoted family man. He was just a wonderful, wonderful guy. And Kathy Crosby Bell has set up the foundation, the Last Call Foundation, in Michael's memory to try to advance safety and issues that are dear to the fire service. So, you know, they've done, you know, their legacies are living on through these foundations, which is wonderful. The members of Engine 33 and Ladder 15, they've had a tough couple of years. And when I say that, I mean, if you go back, they were the first they had during the bombing. And then, you know, less than a year later, they lost one of their senior men at the house, Frankie Flynn, who was, you know, the go-to guy from cancer very quickly. And then we had the tragedy on Beacon Street where we lost Eddie and Mike. And they've been through a lot together as a house.
Have there been any changes in operations or equipment or anything like that in the year in between as a result of that ferocious fire?
Well, there's a couple investigations ongoing, which everyone's aware of.
Well, there's a criminal investigation
There's a
against
criminal
the welding company.
Right, and there's also an internal board of inquiry that we're looking at, top to bottom, look at the fire. And then we also have NIOSH, independent from the federal level, looking at it. You know, again, that fire was just such a unique fire, and I would say that Lieutenant Walsh and Michael Kennedy, the decisions they made and where they went and how they attacked that fire made a difference that day. I mean, there was people saved on them upper floors. I mean, I have an email from a woman, actually an ER doctor, who was on the 4th floor, who contributes her life being saved to the Boston Fire Department because they were able to get water to keep it, and which allowed us to get in and rescue people.
So if something like that were to happen again, based on the experience you had then and your men and women had then, are you in a better position to deal with it, or is just some of those things are so out of control?
I think certainly in a tragedy like this, there's always lessons learned. And I think if you look at the fire on Beacon Street, especially the brownstones, we've lost a number of firefighters through the years down the Back Bay and the South End. Brownstones are very difficult fires to fight. And the uniqueness was, if this fire was a block over, if it was on Marlborough Street or Newbury Street, it wouldn't have been an issue. It would have been a typical maybe three alarm fire when people would have been there. It's just that it was exposed to the elements, particularly the wind coming off the Charles, and it just developed very rapidly.
We only have a couple seconds left. We know what what this means to the families and friends, to their colleagues at Engine 33 and Ladder 15. What should people remember of these men in this, beyond their families and fellow firefighters?
That firefighters are willing to die for strangers. They put it all on the line, in which Eddie Walsh and Michael did that day, and the result was we were able to get a number of people out of there safely, and people went home to their loved ones that night. And that's, I don't want to sound cliche-ish, but that's what they pay us for.
You don't sound cliche-ish at all, Commissioner. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.